I mean, like, I don't get it, but it's fucking hilarious. All right, guys, welcome to TTT, Thomas's Tangent Time tonight. We are going to be talking about conspiracy theories. Ooh. So, this is a disclaimer. Most of the time, guys, I really don't want to be political on my show because my show is about scientific education, academic rigor, skepticism and critical thinking, and most of all, open mindedness and open heartedness. Okay. So I don't include politics in anything that I do because I want to focus on what's the truth, what is actually true, or what is most likely true. But here's the thing: tonight we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories, and you can't escape it. Most of them are about political things. Um, that's just the nature of conspiracy theories. It's always about the world. Not well. There are some about small occurrences, but we'll get into it anyway. So here's my friend Dalsu. Here's my friend Scott. Say hey to them. They're awesome, wonderful people.
Hello.
It's very smart people, which is why I have them
Pleasure
on.
to be here.
Yes. So I have a few articles. Oh, we got my other buddy. So I have a few articles that we could go over about the psychological affectations of people dealing with thinking about conspiracy theories, how that affects, how anxiety affects it, and how a sense of loss of control affects it, how cognitive biases affect it, which we will talk about. But I'd like Dalsu to bring up some of the silly, in my opinion, silly conspiracy theories um, that he's found. Some of the ones that he's found. So I'd like to hear some.
Well, I've got a lot of them in front of me. I'm
Okay.
gonna, I don't even know how to calculate what the most ridiculous one is, but
Give us just a
let's
couple
go
and we'll chew on
for,
them.
here's one that looks pretty fun. Nibiru, the planet killer. This is about Planet X or Planet 10 or whatever, the like hypothetical potential planet outside of our solar system. And it looks like the idea is it's basically it's going to cause a global catastrophe. So
It's gonna
somehow,
slam into Earth.
yeah, it's either slamming into Earth or it's going to knock comets out of orbit that will hit us, or it's like it's active,
Oh
or it
my
houses
God!
aliens. Some of them are the aliens live there and they're going to invade.
What dark web physicist, 27-year-old, figured this out in their basement that this is going to happen and throw? Like, I would need NASA to tell us that, hey, there's a planet that's going to start slinging comets off their trajectory. We might want to worry about that. Um, I don't know. That's a crazy one. Is that all there was to it?
Trying to find more on it. That one
Take
was
your
one of
time.
the
We're not
shorter
we're not
ones.
rushing. Our audience understands. Go ahead. You may have to mute on Discord, my brother.
We should get you on stage too. I don't
Yeah.
see Perry.
Oh,
Bring
that's
me
right.
up.
Yeah. Now
There
we're
is
on. Yay!
ah,
So, isn't there a theory? And I don't know if this is correlated to what you're saying about Nibiru. Isn't there a planet that was suggested to exist based on some mathematical equations that some physicists noticed? And so, is this connected to that? One, is that true? And two, is that connected to that? If true,
yeah. I don't know the names of the people who did the calculation, but I know there's been a couple different times people have suggested that there's either a planet that we're not detecting that's on the edges of our solar system. I've even heard the nemesis theory, which is the idea it's like a brown dwarf star that's just not putting off enough light to be visible.
A
That's the
star
mm,
only
that close to another star? That sounds wild.
Yeah, it
Well,
would be really wild. Although it's not like binary systems are pretty common, but
That is true. Yeah.
well, if you guys
brown dwarfs are just like dark in general. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you
Scott.
guys remember, Nibiru was like
I don't know if you remember the whole 2012 Mayan calendar thing. So at that time, Nibiru was like a big topic of conversation because that's what people were claiming was going to bring it into the world based on the Mayan calendar.
Interesting.
It looks like it was about the planet crashing into Earth too. Nibiru was supposed to crash into Earth.
So did the Mayans say anything about this planet, or are we just or were they just connecting two different things? Like the Mayans said this, and then now we have this. Oh, it all makes sense. So like, is it one of
Well,
those?
like logically, the Mayan calendar ended in 2012, but based on the logical system that the calendar was designed on. So people were saying like, "Oh, that's the end of the world."
It was like chronologically matching up, so they were
Yeah.
kind of connecting the
Yeah.
two.
Yep.
Which the obvious thing to think about would be they got the math wrong.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, that's the easiest answer. But let's talk about one while Dalsu's looking
Uh,
up other ones.
I
What
found the
about?
source.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
The source of the Nibiru theory was traced back to a woman named Nancy Leiter on a show called Zeta Talk.
Ooh.
And she's a woman who claims that she was contacted by the Greys, the extraterrestrials called the Zetans, which are like the quintessential aliens that you think of when you think of
Do
Roswell.
you know why those are the quintessential aliens that everyone thinks of? Because it's in popular culture. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg.
That is a goodie.
I've
That is why everyone has these. It's obvious that most of these grays were created in people's minds after that movie was made. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any aliens, and I'm not saying that aliens haven't visited Earth. It seems as though they haven't, based on evidence. But what I'm saying follows. Anyway.
That's good that you brought that up because I feel like as we continue talking about more conspiracy theories, it's
Yeah.
going to be related perhaps to the fact that there are things in our culture that give us this bias as to why we think aliens look like this or the earth is flat
Yep.
because this Genesis
Right.
said that. I've
Well,
personally never met a trustworthy Nancy.
Yeah.
So,
What about
well,
2001 Space? Scott, I can ask you this.
yeah.
yeah.
In 2001 A Space Odyssey, would you think that that led to the mistrusting of AI?
Uh,
I mean, I'm not saying that that's the
yeah.
only reason, but do you think that that maybe scared people a little bit?
Yeah, it puts something like within the cultural context of like the worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or
I
just
think
like,
Graham's right.
yeah, I mean the same thing. I guess like if you look at it and compare it to something like Terminator, when you think of like that era
Hmm.
of movies after 2001, right? So like now you
Yeah,
have Skynet, it's AI
it's
that's going to
evil, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The
exactly.
AI is like it seems to be an end to the world kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I think that might be driving the fears of some of the people who are in the top of this field. However, I did an interview with Roman Yampolsky, and he was quite level-headed and very sound in his um, him being scared about what's going to happen with
Yeah.
AI. He's very what's the word, cautious. He's very cautious about it because he
Yeah.
thinks it can be evil, quote unquote, but he doesn't look for it. He's not looking for that. He's not
Yeah.
expecting it. He's very cautious and scared about it. But but that guy works at like the highest levels, so I was lucky to have an interview with him. Anyway, guys, go check that out if you haven't. Dr. Roman Yampolsky, talk to him. It should be up on my YouTube. If it's not, we'll fix that. Anyway, so let's talk about a crazy one that everybody knows about, and I've got to hear everybody's opinions on this one. Flat Earth. Go ahead. Let me
Uh,
hear it, guys.
I think similar to abortion. Am I muted? No, I'm not.
No,
Similar
come on back.
similar to abortion, I think it has to do with a religious kind of perspective.
Hmm.
Um, so take what you will from that. I won't dissect that any further.
I mean, there was a point in the
honestly,
past, in like 1492 at least, when they realized they didn't sail off the Earth.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Even in 1492, I think people did know the Earth was round, right? So I think your current like iteration of people who are flat earthers are mostly just like contrarians to the point that like whatever is the standard, like no, like I'm going to go against that, right? So like
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
really where they're coming from.
So there is definitely that demographic of people for sure. I am unwisely on TikTok a lot. And when you see either the videos or the lives that these people have where they're talking about flat earth, same thing with abortion, it's almost certainly always connected with a religious standpoint and justification. But yes, there are the contrarians, and what was it, 2,000 years ago that the Greeks found out that the Earth was round.
Yeah.
So there's going to be differing uh, cultures that produce different kind of these biases or reasons as to why it's round, flat, whatever the case may be. But
Right.
nowadays, I think it's mostly, along with the contrarians, maybe a handful of times. A lot of it is, again, this is from TikTok. I don't know. I can't really reference. I haven't really met a flat earther. I had a pool guy once that thought the Earth was flat,
I have
but
a friend who is a flat earther and told me the whole, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I told Dalsu this a minute ago. All planes in the world have black boxes, not the ones that we know about, other black boxes that erase data, like basically show that there is nowhere going to the South Pole. It basically shows that
hmm.
it makes up data to make it look like they went below the hemisphere.
Wow.
Um, that's the craziest one I've heard, and I heard that from one of my old friends, and I was like, dude, I don't
Oh
even
man.
know how you would make that connection. But
The
the most, am I right about this? And we can look at Scott actually, if you want to do some research. What is the most popular flat Earth theory? Is it the one where we're in a dome and surrounded by a firmament with ice walls?
Yeah,
I
And
would say
let me look that up. I think Dal had a point to make though.
yeah, go down.
I was just gonna say that I've met two kinds of well, three if we count the like sarcastic flat earthers. I've met sarcastic flat earthers online where they're like arguing for the flat earth, but it's more like they're cynical about everything we know, and they're really just trying to make you question everything. They're like trolling skeptics or something.
Right, right, right.
But then I had a friend in college who was a game designer, and he was a flat earther, and he was gay, and he was a Christian, and he was like the stereotypical like ice dome, like there are
Gotcha. Yeah.
guards, you can't get to the North Pole, there are people
Right.
watching and they'll come and get you if you start heading that way, sort of thing. Like, yeah, the entire place is manned. um,
Antarctica also, along with the North Pole.
yeah, well, it's the same ice wall.
Oh, you're
That's
right,
the
because
wall.
Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I don't know. I can't. Right, I'm not fluent on the
It's okay. Scott's
physics
doing
of
a
flat Earth.
Yeah,
So
Scott's doing
Dude,
a lookup for us. So
this
let
is
me walk.
this is interesting. So I'm
Go
looking
ahead.
at one idea right now by this guy named Orlando Ferguson from 1893. So basically the idea was the earth is like a tabletop, right? And it's all like hollowed out on the edges, and like the continents are all like right in the middle and the water settles, and then all the edges, that's Antarctica, of where it comes up like
Oh,
in a
right.
bowl, right?
okay. Okay.
So then, Dal, the North Pole and/or Scott.
Is in the center. So North Pole is in the center, and then
Wait
there's
a
like
second,
the
guys. We lost Perry for a minute there. What did you say?
My question was answered.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
North Pole's in the
Oh,
center. South Pole
Yeah.
is the rim of the bowl.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
wouldn't the rim be relative to the center though?
Yes.
Because
Wait,
it's a disc, right? It's a fucking circle, so it's
does
gonna be anywhere on the radius.
does the
Whatever.
ice wall, is that also part of the firmament theory still?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So is this just like a holdover from people not wanting it? Well, actually, I think you touched
Mm.
on this a minute ago, Perry. Religious.
Yeah, I think it's
They
biblical
thought the Earth
literalism.
was flat up to at least 1500, right, or a little bit before. Does everybody think that's correct? Because I think that's correct.
Well, if you're
Well,
gonna
I don't even
if
think.
it's yeah,
I was just gonna say, I don't even think there was a unified like idea. I think it was just a bunch of people with their own idea. So like, I don't
Yeah,
know if flat would be the like if you look up in the sky and you see the moon is round. So I
yeah,
bet you there were some people thinking
yeah,
that we're round too,
yeah,
but some people would say it's flat like a coin. And
yeah.
then it's like, yeah, so like I could see it either way. I could see everyone just walking around with their own thing going on.
they would call it geocentric, I feel like, more so than flat earth. Like they were worried
Correct.
more so whether it was things revolving around us or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the beautiful thing about the Greeks is, do you know how they realized the earth was round?
Yeah, math. They dug a hole, or they looked at the
Sundials.
sun. Yeah,
Yeah,
they looked at the other sun.
sundials.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Sticks. Sticks
That's
and dumb.
crazy. So, in their little pockets, like Dao was saying, people knew the Earth was round. But it wasn't probably a prevailing theory, I would imagine, until the scientific revolution, and people were like
Yeah.
noticing that you could sail around the world, and there was evidence of many
Yeah.
ships doing this. So there was at least evidence of a round world that you could end up on the other side of. Back then, of course, they didn't have a top-down view of it like we do today. But um, so let's give some stats. We've talked a little bit about flat Earth, which is one of the biggest ones right now. QAnon's another big one. You guys be thinking about some stuff to bring up here in a second. But let's go to the LSU website. This is lsu.edu. And this is what are conspiracy theories? The paranoid style of thinking in American politics has a long history. The periodic emergence of narratives about clandestine, malevolent actors secretly plotting political and social calamities influences policy debate about vaccine regulations, GMOs, GMO labeling, foreign diplomacy, and domestic elections. But conspiracy theories are not the delusions of paranoid minds. Recent polls show that more than 50% of Americans believe in one conspiracy theory or another. That's interesting because that would be a bell curve. What makes conspiracies an interesting phenomenon is that they have loyal followers and are believed more or less by ordinary people. Also, intelligent people, might as well throw that in there too, because plenty of intelligent people believe in conspiracy theories. They may have it worse than the less intelligent ones. A few common characteristics of conspiracy theories are that first, they locate the source of unusual social and political phenomena in unseen, intentional, and malevolent forces. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a part of our hyperactivity pattern recognition, our apophenia. It's a cognitive bias where we see patterns where there aren't any, or we may see intentionality where there isn't any, or there's malevolent or evil where there isn't any,
Or,
at
or
all.
a snake in the bush,
The
right?
snake in the bush, yes.
Yep.
So that's first. Second, they often interpret political events in terms of the struggle between good and evil. That's a weird thing that we do, and it's a lot of things people in the Western world do. It's about good versus evil, us and them, and it's about morality. Politics is morality at large and watered down. That's pretty much what it is. Um, and third, most conspiracy theories suggest that mainstream reporting of public affairs is a ruse or an attempt to distract the public from a true source of power. This is thinking that the entire media is conspiring together with different with different owners and all this kind of stuff to give us all false impressions of what's happening. There is fake news out there. That term is stupid because it's become a meme, but there is quote unquote fake news out there. I mean, obviously, if somebody was to say like Australia's made up, You know what I mean? Like that would be fake. I'm using a ridiculous example. We don't have to go that crazy. But let's look at a study real quick. According to a study conducted by the University of Chicago in 2015, 19% of Americans believe the government was behind the 9/11 attacks. 25% believe the 2008 recession was caused by a small cabal of Wall Street bankers. And 11% believe the government mandated a switch to compact fluorescent light bulbs in government buildings because they, quote, make people obedient and easier to control, end quote. Now, there is something about lighting that deals with our moods, and they do this in shopping environments. Uh, but it doesn't, the, the idea that they have anything to do with obedience or control is ridiculous, at least to me anyway. So
I,
let's talk. Let's get your ideas from this, guys, and then we'll move on to the next part.
I mean, one thing I would like to point out though is when you're listing percentages of people who believe this thing, right? So within those three groups that you listed, of course, there are certain overlapping groups,
Yeah.
right? So it'd be a mistake to say, okay, the first one was 20 people believe this, the second one was 30% of people believe this, the last one was 11% of people believe this. And then you could say, okay, 61% of the population believes in conspiracy theories, right?
Mm.
Like, I
Yeah,
don't
because
think
there's going to
that's,
be a shitload of overlap. You're absolutely
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That might not be how they got to the 50% number. I would imagine since this is posted on LSU's website that it's been looked over quite thoroughly. But I mean, I'm not
I would,
arguing
yeah,
from authority. I'm
yeah.
just saying the 50% number seems weird to me because that would, in my mind, metaphorically, that means a bell curve. That means that there's some kind of average medium there because it's 50%, you know. Um, I can believe that though. Is that believable to you, Scott? That 50% of Americans believe in one conspiracy or another, or a combination?
Yeah, I guess I would say like it would depend on what conspiracy, right? So there might be some conspiracies that are less fantastical, right? Uh, and
Yeah.
that might be easier to believe, and people will believe those conspiracies, and that's a part of that greater
Mhm.
50%, as opposed to people being like, oh yeah, like we never went to the moon. That's obviously a
Yeah.
much smaller percentage of people,
Yeah.
as opposed to somebody is like, oh, I think Obama did something with like taking money from China or whatnot. Like that would
Yeah.
be a conspiracy theory. It's like
So
not,
let's just you and I agree that the polls that they took may not be representative of those actual 50%. It might be
yeah,
less than that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
agree to that. I
yeah,
can agree to that. That's very rational.
It depends
Um,
what standard of what we're deeming to be a conspiracy also, because if you're going to
yeah.
say 50% of people believe in one conspiracy or another, you can essentially say to a certain point that 100% of people believe in one conspiracy or another, because if I believe in gravity, someone may think that that's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
we try to be good arbiters of truth, so I imagine that we're using some generic colloquial standard of what a conspiracy theory is based on. I mean, I hate ad populum, but I don't know. I guess the scientific one we abide to, right?
yeah. Like
Well,
something
there's
that would go against consensus, right? I
yeah,
think
I
that
mean,
would be.
there are conspiracies that happened, right? We conspired against the British government to form the United States. There have been conspiracies to cover up murders by people in the government in the past and stuff. You know, there's been a number of CIA conspiracies like Iran Contra and all kinds of other shit like that, right?
And I think that that's what makes conspiracies, that's the interesting part of conspiracies for me, because I don't know enough about the CIA to say whether or not there isn't some fishy stuff that, I mean, maybe they've had to do some fishy stuff out of necessity.
Oh yeah. Well, they
And
fucked up a lot though. Is the big problem.
well, so I mean that's what makes it really, the ones
Well,
that get proven right, like, oh shit, that actually was a thing. I
yeah.
thought this guy was a nut job. Right.
Here's the thing to think about real quick: proportionality bias. It's a cognitive bias that says, well, big things have to have big causes. Well, what about the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan? He didn't die, and there's no conspiracies about it. And there's an easy line of evidence tracing back for the reasoning of why it happened.
Yeah.
The proportionality bias basically makes us look into the past or into the future and say, well, this big thing that's going to happen or has happened can't be caused by small things.
Yeah, I would use any school shooting to prove that wrong. It would
Yeah.
just take a random kid who's obviously, very not
You can say mentally ill. It's true.
well, yes, no, he's mentally ill, but he's not significant in the world. Yet he created this huge, out of proportion compared to his significance, out of proportion thing. He killed 12 people, whatever. But
Dude,
so yeah, I get that bias.
the shot heard round the world, the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, right?
That
Let off
started all the
World War.
wars.
And it was just, it's like one
Right.
fucking
Oh
crazy guy
wait!
that just
I
shot the
thought I
Archduke.
thought the shot heard around the world was the one that started the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, that
Are you
was the
sure?
Well,
Revolutionary War.
whatever the case is, the one that where Archduke Ferdinand
Franz Ferdinand.
got killed, that was another,
Dude.
I feel like, example of
Yeah.
a small thing creating just a huge consequence ultimately.
Yeah.
That was
And
a
of course, the
conspiracy.
dissidents against Franz Ferdinand were planning and conspiring to kill him. They weren't going to tell him about it, but it wasn't like some magical thing that happened. It was a political movement that went against him and killed him, and then because of that butterfly effect, World War I.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
there was also that one's particularly fun because the group that assassinated him were a group of anarchists called the Black Hand. So that alone is cool.
And that
And then
was a conspiracy. You know, the Black Hand was a conspiracy.
I was going to say,
yeah,
yeah, there's some conspiratorial background of that ended up actually turning out to be,
But here,
consequential, actually, like in
but here's
reality.
the
it
thing.
wasn't even I don't think it was ever a conspiracy theory. It was just
Yeah,
like
it's
it happened in
yeah,
front of they missed, if I remember right, they like missed killing him on the drive-by, and then the Archduke escaped and went to a coffee shop, and
and
they were
dude was
chasing the
randomly
guys
there.
trying to assassinate him, and one guy randomly stumbled into the coffee shop
Exactly.
and saw the Archduke Ferdinand and shot
Exactly.
him.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like that was a conspiracy, but that's like a conspiracy of 30 people conspiring to kill the Archduke, right? As opposed to like this overarching conspiracy theory of saying like all world powers were trying to take out the Archduke to control
Right.
what was going on,
Yeah.
right? So
That
like
they're somehow in cahoots, telepathically, or
yeah, so I think like the explanation in and of itself too is a thing that would have an effect, right, Perry? Because you mentioned like the aspects of it, but then the way people explain it would also be a part of why it becomes
yes,
like a bigger conspiracy theory, I guess.
just who you're here, what language what sounds or gestures you make when talking about it. You're even, I mean, so the Black Hand basically wasted their time
They
They
completely,
caused
did
a
it.
hell of a lot of problems.
unless they were necessary somehow in a butterfly effect to make that guy be at that coffee shop coincidentally, unintentionally, for whatever reason.
Technically,
Yeah,
the Black Hand is responsible for the rise of Adolf Hitler, if you want to look at it that way.
maybe that's the real conspiracy theory is how did they both end up at that coffee shop?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah,
no way
yeah,
that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
right.
No way.
Oh, and something worth mentioning, that's the thing about coincidences, is you don't look at the 999 times where the coin flips
Yeah,
Correct.
9 out of 10
yeah.
times and not 10 out of 10, but
That's
you
a
look at that
fallacy. It's
one.
called. I'm so sorry. I
Yeah,
keep interrupting
you're
you.
good.
Yeah.
What is it? Gambler's fallacy?
No, it's
Or
say what you were saying again.
it's just you don't look at you only pay
Oh yeah,
attention to
counting
the
the hits
rare.
and ignoring the
Yeah,
misses.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, counting the hits and ignoring the misses. That's a big problem, and that's another fallacy that can lead to conspiracy theories.
I think it's some
Let me
water.
read this real quick, and let's talk about this. Conspiracy theories are just another frame of interpretation for experiences. Conspiracy theories are captivating because they provide explanations for confusing, emotional, and ambiguous events, especially when official explanations seem inadequate. That's a big thing right there. When people are confused and anxious and they hear official explanations, and to them that's not enough to sufficient and necessary for them to believe something, it's easier to think that you're being lied to. So, conspiracies provide structured narratives of events that comport with how some people process information. So, this is going to depend on the type of person that you are, your personality, your nature, and your nurture. Conspiratorial beliefs flourish at the extremes of the political spectrums. Political extremism fosters conspiracism due to the highly structured thinking style, engaged individuals who construct narratives that make sense to them based on their prior beliefs. Some argue that conspiracy theories are for losers, that they are tools used by the powerless to attack and defend against the powerful. That may not necessarily be true. Finally, some people simply prefer Manichaean narratives, which is, you guys know what this means, which are common in religious and populist political rhetoric. Manichaean narratives often attribute the source of unexplainable or extraordinary events to unseen intentional forces and tend towards making everything melodramatic, understanding things as a melodramatic event of the struggle between good and evil. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
The Manichaeanism
That
being brought up,
romanticism, you know what I mean?
like,
Yeah. Dow, go ahead.
I know Manichaeanism is very much it's an old religion, it's political and it's hyper dualistic. It's very good
Yep.
versus evil. Everything is
Yep.
like a constant like the whole I think the whole idea of our universe being a battle between good and evil originates in Manichaean
No,
like theology.
Zoroastrianism, slightly before.
Yeah, well it would you're right. It would be Zoroastrianism that would come up first. Although I
Yeah.
think Manichaeism is
Well, no,
less
Zoroastrianism was the
theological than
one
that.
that started the
Like,
good versus evil narrative. But
yeah,
Manichaeanism was like right there with it. It was in lockstep. I mean, they were around the same time. So you're right
yeah,
too.
for sure.
which
No,
was like
I think you got
200 AD or something like that. I think
yeah, probably.
Manichaeanism.
That may be true. Zoroastrianism is like way back. It's like
Okay,
thousands of years
then
BC.
yeah,
So
then it did
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're
it
right.
was prior then.
okay,
I mean,
yeah,
you know what
because
it sounds like to me
go ahead.
is people like to have like a resolution to something, right? So human beings are very
Yes,
keen on feeling resolve of
problem solving.
this thing happened. Why did it happen? I want to know why it happened. And when they see an answer that doesn't suit them, it doesn't feel good enough. They create their own reason that does feel good enough, right?
Which I would say is I'd say that is a virtue of humanity. That problem solving.
I think
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
like
I mean, a lot of our biases give us good information.
yeah,
So you're not
yeah,
exactly.
wrong about that.
I I think that's one we're all subject to. I think everyone is really subject to the whims of what feels good at the end of the day. So
Exactly.
I can't blame the Christian that is comfortable where he's at, and I can't blame the angry atheist that hates all the Christians more than he should either.
Yeah, or the guy who's convinced the Earth is flat, right? Like it's
We shouldn't eschew these people. We should bring
yeah,
them into our world and slowly, through kindness and through patience, show evidence. You know what I mean? And you don't throw it all on them immediately, but you slowly introduce them to new ideas of thinking. You have conversations with them,
right.
and over time they realize, hey, my views may not correspond with reality. You know what I mean? And I know everybody in here has a different view of what truth is and all that, but we align close enough to understand that some version of truth aligns with what we consider reality. And
Yeah,
thinking that there is a flat Earth is against all of the evidence that we have. I mean, there's like I think there's a Japanese satellite out there that takes a picture of the Earth like every 7 minutes.
Every second or
Yeah, or
Every
every second or something like
whatever.
that. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can deny that Japanese satellite exists, or that they're doctoring that. The further we get in the future, it's going to be harder to prove this to people, because we're going to be able to replicate anything we want to.
So at some point in the
So-
future, we're going to actually have people just like living in outer space, and like at that point, it's just gonna like it's just
or,
dumb.
or living in a matrix that we've all made for ourselves. Yeah. So I'm gonna read this just real quick, and then we'll have a long talking session. I want to read this last part on this LSU website, and then we'll close that down. It says, "So why do people believe conspiracies, and how do they spread?" Also, I want to say this real quick for the audience. It should be called conspiracy suppositions. Theories are very specific things in science. A colloquial "I've got a theory," that is horseshit.
Is this you saying this, or are you reading this?
No, I'm saying this.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Conspiracy suppositions, because that's what they are. They're not even hypotheses, because they haven't had, most of the time, I would imagine, this is just my intuition, that they haven't been researching very much, that they haven't been doing their due diligence on their sourcing, that they haven't been doing their due diligence on their corroboration of data. None of it. So you can't even get to the hypothesis part.
Yeah, hypothesis is an if-then statement. So you'd have
Well,
to
yeah,
say,
I mean,
if this, then that. And that's
well,
not
yeah,
really the
but
structure.
to get to, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but to get to a hypothesis, you have to study the pre-existing theories, and you have to study the laws and everything. You can't just take a wild, you can't just observe something in nature and then take a wild guess and say that's my hypothesis.
But I do want to say too, once you get to the stage of a hypothesis, that's when you're able to test things, right? So
Yes. But a hypothesis is very, very well constructed. It's a pre-model
it's
of what you
testable.
think might happen, and it's extremely necessary. But for people to say that they have conspiracy hypotheses or conspiracy theories, I don't buy into that. So it says, this couple more paragraphs here and I'll shut up. People naturally try to make sense of their world, obviously. Motivated reasoning is a psychological phenomenon that describes how people rely on biased cognitive processes, cognitive biases, while assessing, constructing, and evaluating their beliefs. We all know this. Prior beliefs and attitudes, quote unquote, anchor the evolution of new information. These motivations or biases affect our perceptions of an issue and how we assign blame or causality to them. An important point is that the motivation to be accurate is often the driving factor while reasoning new information. However, accuracy goals are in constant tension with the motivation to arrive at a particular conclusion that already confirms one's prior beliefs. That's confirmation bias.
Right.
Partisan and emotionally evocative messaging often overwhelms the desire to be accurate. So, some researchers propose that the motivational view can be explained by psychology, that people draw self-serving conclusions not because they want to, but because certain conclusions seem more plausible to them given their prior beliefs and expectations. Another example of confirmation bias. The influence of motivated reasoning, that what we've been talking about, is more pronounced for highly engaged individuals for whom an issue is most important, like, political extremists. The more knowledge an individual accumulates about a particular issue, the more likely they are to be able to effectively argue against conflicting information or avoid conflicting information altogether, which is called disconfirmation bias, where you ignore all of the arguments against your position. So, let's talk about all that. Let's make some sense.
That's such a Giga Chad thing to do. Just completely reject any counter that comes to you.
That's super Giga Chad.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna go over here and finish this 450. Watch me, guys.
Yeah, but we've all had conversations with like Christian apologists who do that exactly.
Yes.
They ignore anything that goes against their position. It's like water off a duck's back. It's crazy. Yeah.
A good one will just realize the disjunction between the two first starting points. Usually it just
Yeah.
comes down to different presuppositions.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody who just says, "Hey, that's just what I believe." Good on you. Like I respect that.
Confirmation bias is so interesting. I think I think that I think I can override that confirmation bias. What do you guys think about what I think about myself?
I think that's a bias.
I agree. I agree.
We can't
So
get away from them. They're
Yeah.
genetically
there is
programmed.
no meta. There is no meta lack of bias that I could exist in
No,
order to comprehend anything, I suppose.
no.
But that's the thing with confirmation bias. If you're aware of it and you like actively engage, understanding that's the case, you can negate some bad aspects of it. You're not going to eliminate it, but you're going to negate bad aspects of it.
This
Right.
is why I like to create different egos in my head that talk with one another, because I can consider the other position of the I notice this confirmation bias, therefore I can stand in a position that negates that. Of course, I can't stand in a position that negates the biases that I'm not aware of, but in regards to the ones that I am aware of, I can create these different little interlocutors in my head that come to some tentative form of truth.
Yeah, mental speed bumps, if you will.
Mental speed bumps. Yeah. Here's
Yeah.
the thing about cognitive biases. They give us a lot of good information. We have hundreds of them, and they're like heuristics. Basically, a heuristic is a rule of thumb, a quick way of thinking, a mental shortcut.
Yep.
And then these are in us, and when they malfunction, biases happen. Biases they're happening simultaneously, but like the reason we have confirmation bias is so that, I guess, if you want to look at evolutionary psychology, it's that if something works, then it's more likely that it's true, that kind of thing, a usefulness, a pragmatic look at
Hmm.
it. um, but confirmation bias is necessary for us to exist.
I wonder if you even saying that it works, if that's a bias. The
Yes.
idea of something that is either working or not working
Yeah.
is perhaps.
Semantically, it doesn't make too much of a difference, I guess. But
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Yeah, it's another problem of the criterion type thing where
Hmm.
you just have to start. You just
Yep.
have to pick a starting position.
Yep, yep. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's
And I
nothing wrong
choose
with
the
that.
flat earth.
Confirmation. You
This is where
choose
I
the flat
stake my
Earth. Oh my
claim.
god.
So here's an interesting thing that makes me think of. So I believe semantically with our language, we can further reduce that claim that the earth is flat. I think that there are other priors that we can keep reducing down. What that act of reducing, I almost want to ask like a Nivik question, like, what do you guys think of that? Not ask anything specific, but what do you think about that act of being able to reduce to certain priors? Do you guys keep that in mind when you're thinking about your assumptions, or do you kind of just let the neurology do its work, and then you're like, okay, well, I feel as though this is the case. I'm going to start here, and there we go.
Well, with the Earth is flat, I guess when you say that, are you saying like, well, then what is Earth? What is flat?
Yes, those are the questions that's the act of reducing that I'm talking about,
Yep.
asking those questions, right?
I mean,
Are
I
you,
think that's
yeah,
what you got to do. That's the problem that I think a lot of the conspiracy theorists are falling into, but not well, maybe not actually no, maybe not the conspiracy theorists because they're kind of at a lower, like they're at a political level. But
I think both people can be not cognizant of that process is the point. And it's almost, this is kind of like a Nivik spiel that I'm giving because I want to end up giving my normative stance on it. I think that we should be cognizant of that reducing process. And if there's any way that we could get rid of bias, however practically you want to actually deploy that, I think that's the way to do it, is to be aware of that act of reducing to your priors and why you get there.
But even that would be a bias in of itself, and you might not always get to the correct answer by reducing, right?
But
Yeah.
yes, but you can't. There is no alternative, and I open
I
the door for an alternative always, but I can't
I
think of
mean,
one.
my thing tends to be just accepting the multiple paths all at once. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
reduce everything back and then recognize that you can't, like, first of all, recognize that that's not useful to reduce everything back all the time. So, use whatever assumptions you need to get through the moment and really stop caring about, like, I've stopped caring about what assumptions are true. It's more like assumptions are the utility, and then the truth is in the what happens downstream of the assumptions. So as long as I assume, the speed of light is correct, or like the findings of science are roughly correct, then from that I can get like everywhere else
Yeah.
just about.
Let's just say, but let me interrupt real quick, and then y'all can continue. Let's just say that cognitive biases are necessary for our existence. They're a part of us. They're
Yep.
going to probably, as long as we're Homo sapiens, always be a part of us. And it's best to accept them, notice them, and try to figure out when they're happening, and say, "Am I getting good information from this way of thinking, or am I
Exactly.
leading myself down a path of not following the evidence, but just leading
Exactly.
myself down a path that I
Exactly.
want to go down?" I'm not I'm not proclaiming absolute truth or anything. I'm just saying following the evidence usually ends up with like survival, thrival, and technology.
Yeah,
So that's where I'm
because
going to focus my efforts on.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
like fundamentally, a bias is neither good or bad. It's what you do with it, right?
well, that would be heuristics. Heuristics are neither good or bad, but a cognitive bias, if ignored, is probably always going to be considered a bad thing because it gives you bad information. I'm
Oh,
gonna look it up real quick just so that I can read it. And
Right.
I didn't mean to like correct you there. You're
oh, oh no,
taking
like I guess what I'm saying is like
Let's
what
see
you
what it
what you
says.
pointed out said like a bias can like at times give us the correct information, but we need to
Yes.
understand what it when it's giving us correct information or
Yeah.
bad information, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what
like
I'm saying is too.
visual illusions are a bias that usually is helping us in our day to day. But then if you draw a particular funny shape or some lines that are too close to each other and wavy, then it kind of tricks our eye a little bit and it kind of fucks with those visual biases.
Yep.
And I think it's, yeah.
So those, I would say, obviously, are not biases that we could really have any control over. I mean, maybe you can manipulate your eye in a plastic surgery kind of way, but they're not as like you can't manipulate them as well as noticing my linguistic biases, for example. Should we have like a different word for that then? I mean, is that the same phenomenon? The biases of our eyes and the illusions that it can cause, along with the cognitive
So
biases?
yeah, like
Nah, I don't know,
Well,
because
sensory.
you can have maybe you can have perceptual biases, like
Yeah,
sensory
So that's
biases,
how you
yeah,
would
sensory
specify it.
bias.
but it would all still be processed in the cognitive.
Or empirical
yeah,
biases versus
because
rational biases, maybe
your
even.
Yeah.
your eyes are your brain, which is a funny thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean they are.
What
Your
is? What is?
your
Your
eyes are a
your
part of your
Are your
brain.
brain? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, I
But
mean,
also,
so is your entire nervous system that runs to every part of your body. You know what I mean? It's a part of your brain as well.
your eyes are the only thing that doesn't grow.
Isn't that weird?
what?
They're the same size as when you're a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at a
Probably
baby's
just
eyes
so
and notice how big they
ridiculously
are, and then imagine
complex
them.
they have. But who knows?
Fucking eyeballs.
So
That,
I'm just
that
going to
sounds
read
like
this.
a conspiracy theory to me, man.
Yeah, they're not real. Those can't. I don't think so.
What, Thomas?
So
See, you-
just to clear this up real quick, for the audience, we will have an episode on cognitive biases again because we had an old one, but it's just bad quality. So we'll probably go to another one again. But a cognitive bias is a systematic pattern of deviation from a heuristic or norm or rationality in judgment. Individuals create their own quote unquote subjective reality from their perception of the external input. An individual's construction of their own reality, not the objective input, may dictate their behavior in the world. Thus, cognitive biases may sometimes lead to perceptual distortion, inaccurate judgment, illogical interpretations, and even flat out irrationality. So that's
So
that's
it encompasses both all of it, all of
yeah,
those things that we
yeah.
mentioned. Gotcha. Yeah.
Like we can I'll pick a random one. The anchoring bias, the inability of people to make appropriate adjustments from a starting point in response to a final answer. It can lead people to make suboptimal decisions. Okay,
So stubbornness
I guess
or
so. Yeah,
cognitive dissonance is usually the term I use for stubbornness. Um,
yeah.
isn't it true scientifically that the vision that we end up interpreting in our brain is actually coming in upside down, but our brain interprets it as upright, however you call it, right side up?
Yeah.
I've heard that.
I think it comes
It,
in
it,
upside
it, it,
down.
yeah, well, what happens when light goes through our eyeball? Like with any lens, if you take like a concave and shoot light through it, what it does is it's going to reverse
Ref-
polarity based on like the yeah. So yeah, when the light hits the back of our eye, it's upside down. But
I've
we
heard I've heard if you wear mirrored glasses that reverse that upside down your vision, that you will adjust to it after a few days and you'll stop like noticing it.
you yeah
I've heard
you
something
will
similar
yeah.
to that as well. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So
So
that's not.
let me. Oh,
I
I'm
know.
sorry. Go
No,
ahead, bud.
it
No, no,
wasn't
no.
that.
You're good. You're good. I wanted to hear what you had to say.
That's not refraction, is it?
No, it's not
No.
refraction.
Okay.
Refraction is like scattering of light, right? So like refraction is what happens when light hits a
Translucent piece of.
yep, and
Yeah.
then it spreads out, right? So
Yeah.
it refracts, right?
Yes.
Like what you'd see on like what is it? The what album is that?
Nirvana
No.
Nirvana.
with the baby stick,
No,
water.
it's the one with the light going through the prism, right? And then
Oh, it's
it's
Oh,
Pink.
Pink Floyd's The
Pink
Dark
Floyd
Side
of
of
the
the
Moon.
Moon.
Yeah.
that is refraction, right?
Yeah,
Wait,
that is refraction. Yeah.
let's see. Does this work? Maybe I'm going to turn this off. Actually, can you guys see this paperclip that I'm holding?
Yeah.
Yeah, how it bends. Yep,
Hold on.
because
Do you
it
see?
bends.
Do you see the circular side right here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
stay focused on that circular side. Let me make sure that you can see it decently. Oh, it's going to be harder than I thought.
Like Perry, the easiest example: hold that paper clip, hold that glass, and then hold the paper clip behind the glass.
I am.
Yeah,
Paperclips behind the glass. Ready?
exactly.
Let's see. Hold on. Can we see a difference?
It elongates.
Where?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
wait, no, it didn't.
It's like
No, it didn't
the
work. It didn't
the
work.
water's acting like some sort of lens to magnify.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
gravitational lensing, but without the
With
gravity.
water lensing.
This isn't.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
but it's not doing what I wanted it to do. I failed. I failed the science experiment. It's okay.
So what we saw, Perry, though, is when you take when you take that paper clip that has that's a ring and you put it behind the glass of water, to us in the camera, it all of a sudden, instead of being like a round circle, it becomes elongated, right?
Oh wait, it's working. Wait, it's working. The thing that I wanted it to do is working.
Yep.
Notice. Wait, hold on.
Oh, it's coming
Notice
from
how
the
it's coming
opposite
the
end.
other side. Yes, that's what I was trying
Yes.
to do. That's
Yep.
what I was trying to mimic as vision comes into our eyes, where it's opposite. It's
Yeah.
upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, there we go. It was worth it after all. Okay.
That's basically what happens in your eyeball. Yeah.
But and that's why I'm asking: is that the same phenomenon, refraction or reflection or whatever the
Yep.
fuck you want to call it? And I don't know if that is refraction, the opposite thing that we just saw there.
Maybe
It's
that's
it's
Refraction is shooting light at something and it
It
spreads as it
scatters,
passes
right?
through. Yeah.
Like the album. But so whatever the one that we just saw there is, I wonder if that's the same thing that happens if it's true that vision comes in upside down. If that's the same thing going on, it's
Yeah.
maybe a
So
Chat GPT
so
question, right?
when you say
the
vision comes in
pinpriction effect.
upside down, Perry, what's
Light
happening?
comes in upside
Yeah,
down. If
what does it doesn't come in upside down. What happens is your eyeballs, the light comes into your cornea, right? And because of the shape of your eyeball, the light is reversed, right? So the light goes upside down, if you
so, it
will.
does two flips. It comes in right side up, does a flip.
No. So
No, okay,
it
keep
comes
going.
in, it does a flip, but our brain reads it as right side up.
Okay, that's where
Yeah,
the other flip comes in the mind. Okay,
is the
all right.
brain? Yeah,
It's what's processed in the cerebellum, which is in the top part of the brain stem
yeah.
right here on the very back part. And that's where the rods and cones in our eyes, that's where the information is processed there for us reading it right side up in our mind. But
Exactly.
you're right about it coming in through the eyeball mechanism, uh, inverted, basically.
Yes,
Inverted.
exactly.
That's one
Yeah.
of the words that I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I wanted to get to just a bit more real quick. Let me tell everybody in the audience, future audience, the American Psychological Association, the APA, has a cool paper that was, I guess somebody wrote about the paper on June 26, 2023. And it's called "Why People Are Willing to Believe Conspiracy Theories." Just look up APA, "Why People Are Willing to Believe Conspiracy Theories." And on that page, if you'll go down just a bit, you'll see "Read the Journal" article with a PDF, and that opens to a scientific journal. Now, this is called "The Conspiratorial Mind: A Meta-Analytic Review of Motivational and Personological Correlates."
Yeah.
And what that's talking about is it's analyzing the analysis of what people do and how they think regarding conspiracies. I
Mhm.
suggest I've been reading it a little bit while people have been talking. I suggest I can read the opening. It's not that long, but I suggest everybody go in there and try to understand a little bit about what it's saying because I've read a bit about it. It's not terribly complex, but they source some really interesting data, some really interesting
Well,
data. So I think you should
can,
check it out.
Thomas, can you do this instead of reading the opening? Can you just give us like your own uh,
I don't
rewording
know
of
enough
it?
about it. I mean, what
Okay.
it is the opening is a presentation of a scientific experiment. So my summary would basically be, um, it's trying to we can. It says what is conspiratorial ideation. It says all those scholars continue. This is not long. All those scholars continue to debate how best to distinguish conspiracy theories from truth. There is considerable consensus surrounding the core features of conspiracy theories. Broadly, conspiracy theories refer to causal explanations of events that ascribe blame to a powerful group of people or individuals or conspirators who operate in secret to form hidden plans that benefit themselves and harm the common good. Thus, the definitional recipe of conspiracy theories involves three primary ingredients, and this is the end: A, conspirators; B, hidden plans; and C, malintent against others or society. This definitional recipe holds whether conspiracy theories turn out to be true or not. Conspiratorial ideation, therefore, refers to a tendency to endorse those thoughts. That's basically what the paper's about.
Yeah.
It's going to run you through a lot of the psychology data and the analysis, but just anyway, go check it out. It's some really good data. I'm going to close it down because it is a little heavy for just conversation between
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Um,
The epistemology of a conspirator, conspiracist, whatever you
yes,
call him.
yeah, really, it is. So I'm going to close that one down too because we don't need it. So we've talked about, you know, how people are conspiracy theorists. We can talk about some more conspiracy theories. I think we should do that. But we should also talk about how it's dangerous. It's not just funny. You know what I mean? Like it would be funny, like QAnon would be funny if they didn't act and act on those beliefs and change people's minds to hold those same beliefs. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
wanted to mention that
QAnon
when,
is.
yeah, yeah, no, go ahead on QAnon.
Oh no, I was just gonna say QAnon is definitely a special one, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like rubber is hitting the road and people are uh, acting out, if you will, their their conspiratorial ideation, right? And they're like behaving on it, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like people can believe like we didn't land on the moon, but that's not leading them to like go to a pizza parlor with fucking shit, right?
Do you know how many people would have to be quiet in government and government affiliated agencies if we didn't go to the moon? How many people would have to be like, because there was so many people involved in doing it, you would have to keep
Well,
all of them quiet, and there's
why
no way to do
why
that.
would the Russians be quiet? The Russians
Yeah,
would be the first people to call us out. Why didn't
yeah, it's true. You have opposing sources. That's why it gives it more credibility.
Well, so there's an
Yeah,
example of how that could become dangerous. Is if the Russians all of a sudden hopped on board with that conspiracy, they would get so
yeah,
many people on their team, and that could become dangerous in a sense. Um,
for sure.
so
The
Dell mentioned, and it has to do with this. Dell mentioned earlier how when it comes to your presuppositions, ow, it's based on what is useful, more or less, is kind of what you were saying, or what makes them happy. I think is the word that you use. The Christians believe this because it makes them happy, comfortable, whatever.
Christian utility.
As long as it doesn't harm, in a sense. So I would fight against the happiness of someone's presuppositions based on this moral code that I'm trying to talk about. If it meant the harm of other people, as we see sometimes the harm does happen, as Thomas has started off by saying. So usefulness, yes, but you could just say a utilitarian. Well, it's kind of a redundant
yeah,
statement, but utilitarian usefulness, right? Where
Yeah,
it's not
utility.
just it's not just this person's presuppositions that make them happy. It ought be everyone who could be in accordance with, who could be with the implications of your consequences, whoever's
yeah.
affected.
Yeah, that's a good way
It's
to put
pretty
it.
And I'm sure
strange
that's what you
because
meant, yeah, or
yeah,
have that in mind.
more clarity on that is always gonna illuminate more because it's a really strange area. Because I've met people who have preconceptions that downstream, very obviously to me anyway, make them unhappy, makes them hate life and just dislike. Like I can imagine an ex-Christian who's having like nihilistic tendencies, or I can imagine someone who thought they got out of Christianity and then they're still having dreams they're going to hell or something. Like, and so they'll have in some of these cases, you can't let go of the preconception. It's like from childhood and built in. But in other cases, it's like you can just choose not to believe that. You can choose to let go of the Bible and hell and everything and all the anxiety. But there's some other thing that makes you more comfortable thinking that the world is telling you something or the world is working towards good. I hear a lot of like demonic forces versus good forces when I'm thinking of this, where they'll think everything's shitty because demons are taking over, and I'll convince them that that's an attitude they have, but they still won't give it up even though it's the reason they're anxious all the time,
That's their
because
heuristic that they use
yeah,
for
they're
that.
more comfortable being anxious all the time, and
That
I
might
don't know
even
how to
be.
get past that.
And that creates indirect consequences that could be bad for other people. Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say that might be something that's actually coming from the amygdala, and there's just no fucking way like you're going to get
Yeah,
past
it
it.
comes from the salience network. which the
Yeah,
amygdala is a part of.
yeah,
Is
It
the
could be,
lizard?
but
yep.
Is that the lizard
like
part
you,
of us?
No,
I
that would be
feel
the
like I
brainstem, like the pons and the
Okay.
That
medulla
is
yeah.
medulla oblongata.
yeah, Perry. That is like people do refer to that as the lizard brain, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I figured that's
The
what you meant.
amygdala? I don't know
yeah,
about that. Let's look that up.
yeah. Like
Is the amygdala
the
The
amygdala,
lizard
fight or
brain.
flight. Like they consider that like
I don't know.
God. What do they
is the
call it?
Like the
Like
amygdala the
autonomic kind
reptile
of.
brain?
well,
I just thought
there's
reptile brain was just
I mean,
not the frontal
it's
cortex.
Reptile brain is not actually a thing. It's what they.
it's not.
it's a
Yeah,
well,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, obviously, it's
yeah.
a metaphor,
There's
right?
reptiles inside of all of us,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
That
that's not
Well,
the
well,
government knows.
there's this metaphor that you have a reptile
right.
brain, you
Yeah,
have like a chimp brain, and then you have like the executive brain, right?
yeah,
Uh, this is somebody came up with this in like the 70s or something, and yeah, like the amygdala is what they in this model is what's the reptile brain.
okay,
It's the autonomic responses, the fight or flight, like
right.
everything that
Yeah,
is
I'll go with
just
that. I'll
yeah,
go
Yeah.
with that.
It's
Yeah,
a metaphor. We're not trying to
yeah.
find a demarcation line of where the lizard brain ends and begins.
Sure.
yeah,
No, I'm not gonna get all Robert Sapolsky and go like deep into the parts of the brain and stuff. I'm just saying. Scott's right. It is the lizard brain because it's going to be most of our decision making takes place there because that's where all of our emotions are processed. Most of them anyway. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
right.
done throughout the entire brain, but the amygdala is mainly going to be responsible for activating our sympathetic nervous system and stuff.
yep.
Another really evil conspiracy theory is just the greater, wider anti-vax conspiracy. The idea that they're bad for you or they're being poisoned, like
I was
when
going to mention
these are
that
some of the
right
most
in the beginning.
life-saving
Right.
medicines to
Yeah,
ever exist. They
I
cure
know,
more disease than fucking anything ever.
dude. Dude, like I saw a paper recently that there was this really bogus paper that said mRNA vaccines are like increasing the levels of people who get cancer. You look into it and it's just like this really bad bogus argument. And then you look at actual real papers. So right now what they're doing is they're using mRNA vaccines to target specific cancers. And this is the kind of thing that we're actually focusing on right now. Is like you get a vaccine to go and take care of like a specific cancer, and that it just goes and takes care of the cancer. You don't have to do fucking chemotherapy or fucking or like radiation.
Chemosabe therapy.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking amazing, dude. Like,
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
it's
Um,
amazing.
let's talk about. Let me. I'm not changing the subject, and we can keep going. But I want to talk about the anxiety connection because I think that's an important part.
Yeah,
Anxiety and alienation lead to conspiratorial thinking. In May of 2018, the APA released the results of a national survey that's suggesting that 39% of Americans felt more anxious than they did a year ago. This survey was done in 2023, primarily about the everything that we worry about, health, safety, that kind of stuff. A 2017 report found that 63% of Americans were extremely worried about the future of the nation, and that 59% considered that the time that that this time is the lowest point in U.S. history that they could remember. Such feelings span the political spectrum. A 2008 Pew Research Center survey found that the majority of both Democrats and Republicans felt that their side in politics had been losing in recent years on issues they found important. That's very interesting to understand all that.
yep,
So, such existential crises can promote conspiratorial thinking. In a 2015 study in the Netherlands, researchers split college students into three groups. People in one group were primed to feel powerless. The scientists asked them to recall and write about a time in their lives when they felt that they were not in control of the situation they were in. Those in a second group were cued in to the opposite direction. They were asked to write about a time when they felt totally in control. And still others in the third group were asked something neutral to describe what they had for dinner last night. Then the researchers asked all of the groups how they felt about the construction of a new subway line in Amsterdam that had been plagued by political problems. Students who had been primed to feel in control were less likely than students in the other two groups to support conspiracy theories regarding the subway line.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
To me, that makes total sense. And going back to the point that I made before about
Yeah,
feeling like you have an answer, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
control.
You're the guy who has the answers, and you gotta Alex Jones.
Yep.
I think it's built in, and it's like we're social creatures, and truth is like the ultimate bargaining chip that we have when confronting each other socially. And so I think that it's like a defense mechanism. When you feel threatened, you come up with a truth that you
Yep.
have to defend in order to in order to try
That's
like gain ground and like gain a holding spot that you
that's
can
a
stay
real
in.
good that's a real good point.
Hmm. Yeah.
That would have to do with
It,
our like the survival part of us, right? I mean, it's a defense mechanism where we. It's almost similar to like you have to start with something at some point, and you're going to end up doing something. So aren't you going to use that bargaining chip of truth to help you survive as best as possible? I mean, isn't that the defense mechanism?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, all of that's the the idea that you have to do anything is the defense mechanism because you'll sit there and starve and die if
Right.
you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
But I mean, some people do that, I guess. Buddha, 26 years.
Yeah,
Asceticism
Just,
is.
some people lie their ass off for a defense mechanism, though.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Then there are also compulsive liars who just believe their own lies.
Yeah.
It's
And then we get
and
back to
they'll over
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah,
Sorry.
compulsive
yeah.
liars.
Not all conspiracy theorists are compulsive liars, but no,
I
it
know.
is
I know.
true.
Compulsive liars confuse me because they'll sometimes pave over their own lies with new lies, and they'll
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have
it's
to
like a
gaslight you
house of
over the
remember.
cards, bro.
same.
It's good to not lie because you don't need to remember much. You don't need to
Yeah,
Yeah,
remember
that's
what
why
is
if
the
you lie, you
story.
need to be simple as fuck. You don't
Yeah.
need to be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very general. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's too funny
we
because I
do.
saw something like with The Rock. So, like, have you seen this thing where he like every like couple of years he says, This is the first time I've been to In and Out."
Yeah, I saw that too.
He makes a post on his Twitter. It's like the first time I've been to In and Out, and people are like, "Dude, you've said this
Hmm.
like 5 times."
So this is interesting. I see a lot of influencers who obviously lie to get views, and a lot of the times it's so obvious that it becomes a joke or the audience knows that it's a lie and they're all saying it in the comments, whatever.
Yeah,
Do you think that The Rock was doing it
I don't.
intentionally, or was it the
I,
lizard part of his brain that was
I don't think so yet. So, like, if he does it like maybe 10 more times, yeah, it's totally going to be a joke.
I'm I'm pretty
This
sure
is like
he-
Tim and Eric
he's
level shit, right?
I'm pretty sure he's done it after it was brought to his attention. Like someone
okay?
brought it to him after the third time, and then he still did it two more
He's still,
times or
But
something.
would that
yeah,
had to have been intentional, or did
yeah.
he
So,
like
I don't know if it
forget?
had to, but
Like, did
like
he? Because people have bad memory.
there
Some people have like bad memory.
there's also some other stuff that I
Yeah,
watched a video where like Rock was claiming that he eats 6 to 8,000 calories every day. And there was like a nutritional trainer just like explaining how that doesn't make any physically possible sense. Like that he could be eating that
Like
much
he'd be
at his
gaining so
age
much
and
weight.
being active
yeah.
enough to stay in that shape.
If unless he
Like
was
it,
on steroids, which I know he's gone through cycles and whatnot.
and a lot of people are accusing him of being on
yeah.
steroids because
Exactly.
he
It's
doesn't look like Joe
possible.
Rogan.
Oh,
Joe
It's
Rogan
well,
possible.
looks like an
And
old man.
this is a benign conspiracy, right? So we were talking about it
Yeah.
earlier about like different levels of conspiracy. Like this one, none of us know if The Rock is doing juice, but it might make sense that The Rock is doing juice.
so
As a,
are we? Is the claim that he's on juice right now at his age, or that he's ever been on juice? Because he has been on juice, though I don't think that he's ever admitted to being on juice. But I think
I would say he's probably been on juice every time before he's done a movie, right? So he probably just goes on like a regiment before he goes.
Especially depending on the, yeah, I mean, he'll take a 150 milligrams of test, a very low, to put it in perspective, a very low, 200 maybe, depending on what, like, you don't need a lot, but it's still enhancement, right? So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
obviously done something. There's,
Although he's like an actor. I don't think it
yeah,
matters that
no,
much if you're an actor.
no, I don't think it
Uh,
matters at all. I don't
but
think it
like,
matters at all.
but the dishonesty matters, and there's a few
Yes,
like I don't want to disparage The Rock because maybe he's a good guy. I don't know.
I agree.
I always thought he was a good guy up until very recently. So and I'm not confident
Dude,
in saying
dude,
he's not.
you
So I
can
don't
be a
even know.
good guy and get caught up in like your own bullshit, right? That doesn't make you not a
That's true.
good guy anymore, right?
And he wrote it in his contract that he can't lose in Black Adam, which is
Yeah,
just what I don't know.
yeah,
I'm pissy. We should do
yeah.
more conspiracy theories, though.
I
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I'm fine talking random
So
stuff, but
I
I have
looked
a
up
This
on
whole list.
this is a good conspiracy theory though. This is a benign conspiracy
I
theory.
looked up on
It is.
ChatGPT. I asked it, they, them,
Yeah.
he, she, they, whatever pronouns ChatGPT uses. Um, I asked, what are some conspiracy theories that have been proven right? Watergate scandal, Operation Northwoods, tobacco industry conspiracy, NSA surveillance, and Iran Contra affair. Do any of us know about any of these or want to talk about any of
I
these?
mentioned the Iran Contra earlier,
Okay.
Dude,
but the
Ollie North.
NSA and
Ollie North.
what's his name, Scott?
For the Iran Contras, Ollie North.
No, I know that. I'm talking about the NSA one. What's his name?
The
Oh,
NSA,
Snowden.
Snowden.
yeah, Snowden. Yep,
Yeah. So that yeah,
Edward Snowden.
yep.
yeah.
Edward Snowden. Yeah, that one
So
blows my mind because it happened like that was a conspiracy that happened recently. He still can't come back. And
what
there's
about the
been
conspiracy to
no
kill? What about the? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dal. What about the
no, go
conspiracy
ahead.
to kill Julius Caesar?
I mean,
Did that actually? So did that actually happen, or is that just
Yeah,
an
they killed
unproven?
him.
yeah,
Remember Et
Okay.
tu, Brutus?
it's
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
it's too brutal.
a two Brutus.
Yeah, I don't know how his if that line was said, but
The
I'm pretty
fucking
sure
Ides of
Julius
March,
was.
man.
Whatever
It's a mark.
article you posted, Thomas, of the APA with kind of, as I mentioned, the epistemology of a conspiratorial theorist, I think that this adds to their positive confidence in some of these claims and theories when they see that some conspiracies do actually become true. I mean, that's like, oh my, the ape
Yeah.
part of their
Yeah,
brain starts
yeah. They're
going,
like,
right?
oh look, this conspiracy over here turned out to be true. So that
This,
means
so
that
what
my
about this?
conspiracy,
Exactly.
yeah, that means that my conspiracy that I've come up with out of the whole cloth
Yes.
is true too. That's a
Dude,
fallacy.
you know what a
Yeah.
perfect example of this is Joe Rogan with any conspiracy and how he always brings up the Gulf of Tonkin, right? So the Gulf of Tonkin was a true conspiracy that took place. Anytime anything happens, he's like, "Oh yeah, but the government told us
He,
about the Gulf of
yep,
Tonkin."
he always brings that one up as if it's some positive claim to his whole cloth. Fucking.
I know, dude. It's brutal every time.
I used to listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. I haven't lately, though.
Since he
I
switched
mean,
to
I'm not
Spotify,
against Joe Rogan or anything. He has a lot of interesting guests. Like, I loved it when Brian Cox was on there. He talked about black holes the whole
Oh yeah,
time. So
he's
I
got
like
some
that.
great guests.
yeah.
100%.
I'm going to hopefully be getting Brian Green and Brian Cox on my show to talk about physics and quantum gravity with them, string theory with Brian Green.
I
So
gotta
that'll be
be there
really
for the
interesting.
Brian Green.
What's that?
Wait, Brian Green or Hank Green?
Brian,
Brian Green, the theoretical
Brian.
physicist.
Okay, I'm thinking
He's been
of
on Stephen Colbert and all kinds of plays. He's a pretty popular guy. But anyway,
thinking of a
we'll have
different
good conversation with him. It'll be great when it happens. Travis is in the works with him right now. So,
oh, by the way,
anyway,
you guys, and
yes.
if Travis is somehow listening, which I doubt he is, I've asked Felicia to set me up with an interview with you guys and Don Don as well. So to have her set me up with 5 separate interviews with you 5.
Okay,
So be ready for that. Um,
I'm
I
ready.
have just a little something in plan and how I will interview you guys, and you guys can lecture me and do whatever you want
I love it.
when we talk. Just FYI.
I'm ready. I'm so ready. We can go back
I
to.
mean,
I mean, I'm having a really good time. Does anybody getting tired of this, or you tell me?
I'm good.
I'm
yeah,
good
I'm
too.
still okay. It's up
I
to
mean,
you
I'm
guys.
I'm hoping that the audience enjoys it too. So I just want to check. I always like
I
checking
got.
in.
I
So we
know.
talked about that. I'm sorry.
What?
I was gonna. I was just gonna say. I think I found what might be the conspiracy I'm closest to believing.
Okay.
Is
Yeah, let's hear it.
conspiratorial.
Lay it on us.
I want to give it like 35% confidence.
Okay.
So it's well below 50. But
So you don't believe it though, right? Do you
no,
believe
yeah,
it or
I
not
don't
believe it?
believe it, but it's probably the highest confidence conspiracy
Thomas
theory
gets
that
so nitpicky with this
yeah,
half belief
yeah.
stuff. Like you either have to believe or you don't
He
believe.
just
I
has
don't
the
know about
paddle ready.
fuzziness. Wait. We gotta address it
Sure,
now.
sure, we could talk about it.
I don't know about fuzziness in belief. I understand there's fuzzy logic. It's a deviant logic. I get it. I get it. But if you believe something, you are convinced of it. Like there, you-
No, I
like
think
I
the
don't know how
Pyrrhonian
you can
skeptics,
be kind of
my
convinced. If you're kind of convinced of something, doesn't that mean you don't believe it?
Well, for
yeah,
one,
I mean, yeah,
it
you can say
also
that. The Pyrrhonian skeptics do tend to say they hold no beliefs,
Okay,
but
so I'll say this. I'll say this. I'll say there's a 0 to 99.99999 spectrum of not believing, but then if you believe something, it's 100%.
yeah, I guess I could say I have no beliefs, but I use beliefs to get through the day. And so the way like, I'll speak about beliefs that I have colloquially, but since I don't walk around with them all the time, and with these ones, I don't ever like, there's never,
Okay.
like,
Well,
I'm gonna,
let's just ask a
the,
quick question. Do you believe that you have hair?
yeah,
Do you believe that your hair is made out of unicorn farts?
no.
Okay. Is there any part of you that is
but there's
in the middle about the unicorn farts?
yes, I would say.
I have never considered before this moment that my hair might be made of unicorn farts. Um, I can put myself in that space, but I don't. I think it's just like
The realm
what?
of okay, so
Cause
hold on, hold
well,
on, hold on.
wait, cause
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on,
go ahead.
cause
Go ahead.
what is a unicorn fart? If this is made out of unicorn fart,
Yeah, you
so
can
Well, it's a
it's
handle
gonna
it
substance,
too.
change
Sal.
my. I have to completely change my concept of what a unicorn fart is to even
How do
try
you
to
know
get
what a
there.
unicorn fart is? It might be solid substance.
No, this is made out of it. If I believe that, I'm holding it. So I know what a unicorn fart is because I believe if I take that as a belief, but it's just like why it's just why would I like? And at this point, I'm just bending this term to mean hair,
Right.
which I can just
Yeah.
say with hair. So it's like, but anyway,
Yeah.
we're kind of off topic. What I mean to say is I have a 35% confidence that the John F. Kennedy assassination was probably something weird. I think somebody,
Interesting.
I think 35% of me thinks that someone may have wanted John F. Kennedy done or gone because he was like very pro giving out things to people. What can your country do for you? Not what can you do
The
for your country?
CIA was very
Sort of
much a
guy.
part of the military industrial complex back then, and they also fucked a lot of things up. So it's very possible, even though they did release all the JFK information in like what the mid 90s or like early 2000s or some shit. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly, but they released all the info that they had on it, kind of like they did with the UFO stuff. But I lost where I was going. The hell was I saying?
Oh,
JFK.
JFK.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
JFK. It's possible that the CIA fucked something up. They were ordered by Some senators got together and found some people in the CIA who will do what they ask them to for enough money or whatever, and they frame a guy, and it could be something like that. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah. I don't know what I wouldn't have any confidence in any specific John F. Kennedy assassination conspiracy theory, but I have about a 35% that it's fishy. Something fishy's going on.
Okay, what about you, Perry?
I don't know enough about the JFK um, thing to even give you that arbitrary yet reasonable, because I do it all the time, percentage of 35. I love giving those.
Yeah.
I'm almost tempted to go back to the tangent of belief, because I have a few things to say on that.
Please.
Yeah.
Um, Colloquially, I think that okay, so Thomas, there's an infinite number of other propositions that we could talk about that would be much more towards the middle of things rather than unicorn fart.
Sure, I was being hyperbolic.
So, with that being the case, and also this is also more important to bring up, is it belief or maybe it's the same thing, but I'm going to separate them. Is it belief of descriptive facts that this is a paperclip, or is it belief about normative facts that uh, rape is bad? Do I believe that rape is bad? There's going to be some, in Dalsuian terms, some probability in between 0 and 100 that, yeah, I do believe that rape is bad, but then there's also the other remaining percentage that, no, I don't believe rape is bad in certain contexts. And
Maybe. Oh, I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
no, yeah, I mean, that's go for that. Go for that.
I
Respond to that.
I guess well wait, did you want to respond?
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, when talking about something so sensitive, I want to preface by like rape is bad. Don't
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, rape.
yeah,
I
obviously.
remember what
But
I was going to say. Let's table the rape for a
Let's
second.
do
okay, we could
Table that
do
for just a
okay.
second.
well, we could do a different. Let's throw in a different one. Not holding the door open for the old lady is bad. We'll use that proposition instead. There's part of me that believes that that's true, and then there's part of me that believes it's not 100 or 0% on
It is
most
is
things.
is everything, including truth, normative? Because that would be where I would have a sticking point about belief. Because then I could say, yeah, sure, belief's on a spectrum, but like there are descriptive facts that are, for the lack of a better term, objective, right?
They are objective based on our pragmatic use of the word objective.
It
Yeah,
depends on
right.
how you what you mean by objective.
Is there a reality that we all share together that we can all observe and measure?
It's going to be the same issue of these words that we use, but I would say yes
Okay.
I don't
in
know
a
if we can all
colloquial.
observe it, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
There might
So we all
Helen
just have
Keller
different
almost
definitions
didn't.
of truth. It's okay to disagree. We all just have different definitions of what might be true. Mine relies on the idea that belief can be maybe spectrum based on the I'm not sure part. Maybe I can like 90%
In the
believe that
colloquial kind of
that the
role
JFK
for
assassination was fishy, but I don't actually believe it. I'm pretty damn close to believing it, but I don't actually believe it. I'm
I
willing to
honestly
do
don't
that.
know shit about that to even give
Yeah,
you like percentage. So
but if you're convinced of something,
It's
if
fishy.
something has given you enough evidence, and even if you're wrong, if something has given you enough of what you consider evidence, then you're convinced of it. You believe it.
so Dal, in your
Uh,
terms, then Thomas, Dal doesn't actually believe in the JFK thing for the reason that he's saying that it's fishy. Like you would rather not even you wouldn't even entertain belief in this case, would you? Would you just like talk about skepticism or possibilities, probabilities, or do
you would
you
talk
think
about possibilities. Yeah,
or
that's
do you
that.
think that I mean what so but what do you think, Dal, if there is no spectrum in your terms, did I freeze?
No, you're good.
Oh my god. My air
Oh,
just went off and everything got quiet or something. If in your terms, Thomas, do you think that Dale believes in the JFK thing, or do you think that he doesn't believe? Oh yeah, Thomas froze. I know.
oh, Thomas froze.
I figured.
Oh, he might. Um, his internet sometimes drops out, so he might
Yeah,
just be gone for a bit. Yep.
yeah. He'll come
Ring of
back.
death.
In that
Um,
pragmatic use of language, though, Dale, I think that it's a very useful heuristic or just a set of words to use to describe how I feel about that situation.
yeah. I mean, I can work with either one. I can work like to me this is I guess it is ontology, but it's like it's very linguistic just how we're using term like cuz we're talking about truth.
Always.
What truth is it's just like cuz like object cuz we got into like objectivity versus subjectivity,
Right.
but it's I guess we never clarified what objective means because as long as by objective you don't mean like the description is one to one with the happening outside of our like phenomenological experience or
Numina.
whatever we experience,
Right.
then I can get down with it somewhere. I can figure out how to use a binary with belief instead of a spectrum or whatever. It's
I
just
wrote I wrote a little fable slash Socratic dialogue between Theodorus and Theaetetus. Theodorus was Theaetetus's teacher, um, and it was on the word objective and how there's like three different uses of the word. Well, at least three. There's obviously plenty, but there's three very confusing usages in philosophy of objective, and people conflate certain definitions of that, right, when one person's talking about the noumena and then another person's talking about a goal or something, right? So, but
yeah, and it's one that's easy to that like that's one that's easy to get stuck on
yep.
because
Dude,
yeah,
it would always, every time that I've heard a discussion with that, it's just always, no one's ever gotten anywhere. It's always been just like talking past each other for that reason.
yeah.
I
I
don't
think
think
any of those
Thomas is
like
coming back. Let me see what he messaged real quick. Okay,
usually is.
he'll be back in a bit.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, I
he
think his internet just dropped, right?
Yep.
yeah, he can usually text or something and then it takes 5-10 minutes and he's back.
Yep. No worries.
But yeah, JFK assassination might be my favorite conspiracy theory.
So what is like what is the conspiracy? What is the intent or the differing opinion to popular belief?
Um, well, I guess the explanation that you'll generally get is that he was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, who see if, how much I can remember, who hid in a book repository. Uh, I can't remember if it was
Correct. Yeah.
Ford or the Lincoln Book Repository or something like that.
Yep.
And and that's where he went and he shot the president from. He was in this book repository and then he fled to a theater and then he got caught at the theater and the explanation was he killed the president because he watched was it Taxi Driver or Cab Driver or something like that? Some old movie that I saw once.
I don't think it was Taxi Driver.
I can't movie that got Kennedy killed.
Lee
Yeah,
Harvey
it could be.
Oswald movie.
Oh no. There's too many JFK movies. It's buried. But yeah, so the story is that he saw a movie with an actress that he fell in love with and because he fell in love with that actress, he thought she was like telling him to assassinate the president and
Oh
then
no!
he
Oh
just
no! Yeah, you're getting that mixed up with the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. So the one on Ronald Reagan
Am
was
I?
based off
Okay,
of a guy
that
who
could be.
thought some actress, like he was in love with some actress, and
All right, then I'm going to read from this article. I want the assassination of J. No, that's the conspiracy theories. I just need normal JFK Wikipedia.
yeah, John Hinckley Jr. tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, and it was due to his obsession with Jodie Foster.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was in yeah, in the late 70s. I think that's before he was president. Yeah, and he was motivated by the movie Taxi Driver, which was watched at least 15 times, which he watched at least 15 times, and identified with the main character Travis Bickle.
All right.
Yes,
Kennedy was assassinated. Oh wait, you wanna? Yeah, I was definitely screwing that up. So,
so I think like Kennedy's assassination tends to go back to like the notion that his dad Papa Joe was in cahoots with the mafia, right? And Kennedy came in and had a pretty hardcore like anti-organized crime agenda, right? And a lot of the people think that's why he was assassinated. Other people have a different ideas, but one of the main ones is the mafia association.
yeah, um 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, November 22nd, 1963. Uh Kennedy was shot in the head and he was pronounced dead 30 minutes later, but if you've seen the video, you probably should have been able to tell sooner.
Yeah, yeah.
God damn.
We got you back.
I'm having to
Nice.
use my phone's internet because my internet won't reconnect. So
Dang.
yeah, I
Well,
don't. I'm sorry, I was gone so long, guys. Apologize to the audience for that.
You're
it's
good.
all right. We've been talking about Kennedy.
No, that's okay. Keep going. We'll go for a little bit longer because I'm on my Wi-Fi hotspot. I'm gonna keep checking if I get my internet back. So you may see me leave, but I'll be back and forth. I'll keep
All
going.
right.
Yeah, go ahead,
But
Dallas.
yeah, he was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, who was arrested for his murder and was charged with Kennedy's assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald denied shooting anyone, claiming he was a patsy, and then was shot by a man named Jack Ruby on November 24th before he could be prosecuted. Ruby was arrested and convicted of the murder of Oswald and successfully appealed his conviction, but died of cancer on January 3rd, 1967.
Yep.
Um,
That's a lot of the reason why people think there is like something weird. Like, why did this guy just come up and kill him then before he
mm.
could testify? Like, yeah, but
And
I
then a
mean,
bunch of then isn't there the thing where the Kennedys are cursed because their family members keep dying off all the time?
yeah, like I think that just has to do with the
Yeah,
fact that they're Irish and they have a tendency to drink a lot. Yeah,
could be,
yeah.
could
Like
be.
I'm pretty sure RFK Jr. died in that plane because he was fucking shithouse trying to fly.
Would not surprise me. Um, so
Worms ate my brain.
yeah, the worms ate my
I know
brain.
the worms. I
Worms
know.
ate my
Yeah.
brain.
No,
Hey,
no,
he could have
that's
five more worms in his brain, still would do better. That's what he said. He tweeted that.
What if the
let's see.
worms in the brain is a cover up by the Saudi government to infiltrate? I don't know. I can't even think of it crazy enough just to keep going. Somebody give me something.
So
that's the meta fucking conspiracy theory, right?
the one that Stephen Colbert said is Tuck Buckford. He was like, the government's using chemtrails to rain down to rain down chemicals on school playgrounds in order to create an army of middle school sex crazed teenagers.
No, that's facts.
yeah,
That's too
facts.
funny. Uh,
Facts, facts, facts.
John,
Facts,
I love
facts,
the
facts. I hope
absurd.
it was still. Scott, do you know anything about this? Was it still recording when I was gone?
Yeah. We've been
Okay,
recording the whole
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah,
okay,
live.
cool,
It's been saying live the whole time.
Yep.
cool.
That might
It's,
just be our bias, though, and it's not actually live.
Yeah, it's your bias.
What about religious conspiracy theories?
dude, I like that Brett said three of my favorite people. Thanks, Brett.
Wait, yeah, who's the odd man out?
Uh, that's fucking hilarious.
It's me.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, some of the
This is a conspiracy theory right here, man.
Yep. What's the conspiracy? What about the Denver airport? You ever hear that one? It's a base for the Illuminati. You ever heard that one?
Yes. Well, there is so much that goes on with the Denver internet with DIA about how it's associated with the Illuminati. It's it's deep, and you don't want to get into it, man.
Is it ridiculous as hell?
It's really ridiculous. So there's like a plaque somewhere on the grounds of DIA that people think is like the defining factor of how DIA is some sort of like central underground railroad of the Illuminati. It's fucking weird, dude.
That is crazy. Some people point to like the murals on the walls as like sacrificing children and crazy shit like that.
So
It's
what a lot of
just
people point to Lucifer. So
what,
Lucifer
what about what
is
about Pizzagate?
I mean, like, yeah, Pizzagate. Like, I brought that up earlier about a fucking dude going into a pizza parlor with a fucking AR-15.
But I'm sorry, what were you saying about the Denver airport? I interrupted you on that.
Or do you know what Lucifer is? So
No.
DIA, there's this big statue of a horse that's blue with red eyes, and people like in the conspiracy theory world, it's like assigned to like Baphomet or some shit. Like it's
Yeah.
people lose their fucking minds, dude.
Baphomet is not satanic though. That's what they don't
yeah,
realize.
yeah.
I know, but it doesn't matter to like the Christians who are like looking for the occult.
Wasn't wasn't Baphomet like the
As
name? Wasn't
above,
the
so below is
yeah,
what
wasn't
Baphomet represents.
yeah, but I think the name Baphomet actually comes from a French mispronunciation of something that came from a crusade, and they think it was probably Muhammad. They think it was like a mispronunciation of Muhammad in a French accent that eventually evolved into Baphomet. And then
Oh,
the art
interesting.
was from an entirely different guy 100 years later, and then it just evolved over time and
Interesting.
Yep.
became like the modern Baphomet.
It's basically now just a mystical symbol, and some Satanists
Yeah.
probably use that as imagery
Yeah,
for their churches and
I,
things like that. But
But I think
it's not satanic.
I
but I
know
think the
Baphomet
only reason
worshippers.
that this people who say they're satanic use it is because it was used by Christians as like a symbol for Satan beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
pretty
and they,
common.
they just pull that out of whole cloth, be like, oh, this looks evil.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
few Satanists that believe in Satan like Christians do, but yeah, for like 99% of them are not like that.
Yeah. No, they're all atheists just trolling people.
Yeah. Or just it's like edgy. They're all just edgy
Yeah, edge lords. Yeah.
edge lord.
What are you feeling, Perry? Wearing down?
I feel like the conversation tonight has been a rehearsal or reciting of an age old enlightenment versus romanticism, kind of materialist against idealist, theist versus atheist, with the whole conspiracy thing. We are looking at it from a standard of a scientific kind of determinist, physical, that kind of thing. And that's what we're using to deem whether it's a conspiracy or not. And I think that that enrages some people. You can call them contrarians, you can call them religious nuts, whatever. But I think that that may only add fuel to the fire toward seeking these conspiracies and extending the otherwise rigid and dogmatic mind of the analytical, logical, scientific enlightenment kind of figure.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
that's very very interesting. So, what would you say is like a conspiracy theory on like the religious side? And that like there's a like a gay conspiracy to turn kids gay or something.
that could be like kind of one that threads out externally, but even just the internal aspect of religion itself, how us enlightenment, maybe atheist kind of demographic that overlaps, may not just kind of have equate it to a conspiracy, that these people believe in a conspiracy, that they don't know what's going on. And then on the other side, these otherwise conspiracy theorists may think the same about us, and that we're just confused about the perfection and rigidness of
Yeah,
uh, this positivistic kind of type of materialism.
yeah.
Well, I think I
I,
I,
may, I,
I
may I
don't
real
think it.
quick may I real quick respond to Perry? I just wanted to agree
Yeah,
with him.
I
I
do.
just wanted to real quick. Just hold that thought. I just wanted to agree with Perry about the what you said first. What did you say first?
Kind of how it's
Religiosity versus.
yeah, it's kind of a dichotomy, though it's probably false, but it's a
Yeah, you
religious.
were going on a minute ago about oh yeah, analyticity. Analyticity, yeah, cannot solve. I don't think everything. Right. That's what you were getting at, is saying we have to be more open to personal experience telling us what is true, and maybe rely less on the scientific analyticity.
Even the descriptive part of things, though science obviously holds a lot of stake in that area. Yes, as you said, the personal, subjective, normative kind of feelings of things. That's what romanticism is good about. But even the descriptive things and how the Christian views the world, with the presupposition that we live in a firmament, the earth was made 4,000 years, 6,000 years ago, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and I did want to say Dal did want to make a point real quick.
I was just gonna say that I think that sometimes there is a divide that's almost like a bias where it's like, yeah, I have this book and this book is true and this book says this, so I'm gonna believe what the book says, and then make up the whole conspiracy to say that the Earth is flat and everyone's lying about it, NASA and every single country's in on it or whatever. But I think if you look at the majority of conspiracy theories in general, I think it's usually like it's the same sort of thing. It's people picking another group of people that they dislike and then thinking that they're responsible for the problems. And I think like even most of the like anti-Semitism is really big uh religiously. It's like a religious thing. But it's just like the same sort of thing. And anti-Armenianism, which is like if you're in what was that? The Ottomans? That was the
Yep,
Ottomans
yep.
The Ottoman Empire.
yeah,
So
they did the Armenian genocide. And so there's a bunch of conspiracies that like the Armenians were consolidating power and trying to take over the country, and that's tied to religious. And then the Baha'i faith, like we had I forgot the name of the woman we had enter into the Discord a few weeks ago, but she was Iranian and of the Baha'i faith, and she talked about being like bullied in school a lot because she was Baha'i. And there's a lot of like conspiracy theories that the Baha'i people are like secretly trying to manipulate everything from the shadows. And
Yeah, that's what Hitler thought about the Jews.
yeah, and it's
So
the same sort of thing. And then
I think
today you have
there's.
like like you have, I don't know, what are you gonna say, Scott?
I was gonna say, have you ever noticed, like, so, like, regardless of anybody's specific religion or any ideology, human beings have a specific problem with doing this thing. We try to blame, shame, and complain, right? So we blame people, we shame people, and we complain about people when we don't like what's going on. Like, to me, like, that's something that I see that's like before the conspiracy theory, right? It's like this natural response that we have. I think that's where you're going, Dal, about how like people respond to other people, and all of a sudden, because you're some other group, I'm going to blame you for my problems, right? And then so now that I'm blaming you, anything that happens, I'm going to shame you for like anything that goes wrong in my life, and then I'm going to complain nonstop about all this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, like Islamophobia is kind of a overused term, but there are a lot of like anti-Islam conspiracy theories after 9/11 that suddenly showed up. Like, uh, I got some,
Absolutely.
like there's some that's love jihad, which is the idea that Muslim men try to like woo Western women to convert them to Islam, or that they're trying to outbreed the West. They're trying to have more children just so
Yeah.
that they outnumber us and eventually just move and pick. It's like it's
Outbreed the
literally
West.
it's the Great Replacement theory. It's the same thing that the
Yeah.
the Ku Klux Klan people have been doing in the United States for 200
Yeah.
years, and it's just
Exactly.
saying that,
Exactly.
don't
I could
replace
see
white
South
people.
Park or Family Guy making a funny episode about that of like these Arab guys like with big mustaches like wooing the people of South Park or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, Mohammed shows up
Did you
all
find
censored.
Dow? Dow, did you find any other crazy conspiracy theories of note?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the religious section right now, but like
Okay. Well,
there's
talk about the ecumenical council of the Council of Nicaea.
yeah, I'm not actually
Mm.
seeing it on this page, but yeah, the Council of Nicaea was like a group of Roman like dignitaries, and like statesmen and religious figures who got together to uh number one on the list was, is the Trinity true? And so they decided on whether or not the Trinity, it's a triune God or a unitary God. And then they also decided like what books to take out of like the collection of texts generally considered Christian. And so they removed a lot of texts, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories around them, like being a secret cabal that created Christianity to like dominate, to like consolidate power over Europe and dominate everyone forever, basically. And I think
The
that
funny
ties into
part is that
like
a little bit of that happened.
politics.
Yeah, they
I
definitely
mean,
had
yeah,
some influence on history, no doubt.
there's
Obviously.
always actors trying to consolidate, use power, and manipulate people with
Exactly.
religious stuff. But like that doesn't make it like there are conspiracies, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean the whole thing's a conspiracy.
Yeah. Just because it got
Exactly.
popular doesn't mean that it's all wrong. I got you.
Dude, well,
Yeah,
the best way to like really hook people into a quote unquote conspiracy theory is to have like a good amount of truth there, and then you just add the bullshit at the end, right? So like that's a lot of what it is. There's a lot of truth there, and then there's just like the lie at the end.
What do you think about that, Barry?
I think that I'm going to sign off here pretty soon.
Okay. All right, guys. We're going to go ahead since we've all been talking for about 2 hours. We love you. We thank you for coming. I'm sorry about my connection issues tonight. Please subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. I would appreciate it. And do come back and see us. We will be back either next Friday or Saturday, depending on schedules and stuff. So we love you and appreciate you for coming. And good night.
See you guys.